Hello and welcome to 168 Hours. My name is Razmik Martirosyan and today I'm honored to interview Dr. Ehsan Movahedian. He is an international relations specialist from Iran. Dr. Movahedian, thank you so much for joining us.
Hello and so many thanks for having with me, and I'm waiting for your questions.
Dr. Movahedian, how do you see the growing competition over transport corridors in the South Caucasus, especially in relation to TRIP? Do you consider it part of the so-called Zangezur Corridor Initiative, or is TRIP something different?
The competition over regional corridors has an economic appearance, but it is part of a larger competition for geopolitical and military dominance over the region and the economic, political, and military encirclement of Iran, Russia, and China. After Israel, Turkey, and Baku failed to create the fake Zangezur corridor due to Iranian opposition and resistance, they turned to the US and advanced the Trump Road Plan. Of course, the Trump Road Plan apparently respects the territorial integrity and independence of Armenia, but the reality is that this plan also poses serious risks to the interests of Iran and Armenia. The plan will lead to the economic and political presence of the US on the Iranian borders, which will result in jeopardizing Iran's security, geopolitical encirclement of Iran, and the exclusion of Iran from important corridors for the transfer of goods and energy. Also, the Americans are trying to create a path for the presence of NATO, jihadis, and separatist forces on the Iranian borders by being present in Republic of Azerbaijan and the Sunni province of Armenia. Therefore, the general plan is the same, but due to Iranian resistance, a different appearance has been given to it. Another problem is that with the US access to Armenia's custom and ICT infrastructures, access to Eurasian Economic Union data becomes possible. Iran is also a member of this union and will certainly not be happy with the US access to its trade information. Connecting to Armenia's customs and border systems will also provide the US with information on border crossing of Iranian citizens, which Iran is also unhappy about. This process is also dangerous for maintaining peace and stability in Armenia itself, and the US intends to turn Armenia, like Georgia and Ukraine, into a playground for confrontation with Russia, which is so dangerous for the future of Republic of Armenia.
Iran has been openly critical of the Zangezur corridor in the past. Does that position remain the same today, or has Tehran's view evolved?
Iran's position on opposing the creation of the Zangezur corridor is consistent and unchanging, and has been reiterated many times by the authorities of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The creation of a corridor that would lead to Armenia losing its sovereignty over its territory is unacceptable to Iran. The aim of this is to encircle Iran and Armenia and threaten the national interests of both countries. And Armenia will have no chance of survival if it loses its borders with Iran.
Does Iran see the corridor as a possible threat to its territorial integrity or regional influence?
Iran considers the creation of the fake Zangezur corridor, the so-called Zangezur corridor, a potential threat to its territorial integrity or its regional influence, because this completes the geopolitical encirclement of and surrender Iran. We should note that the creation of the so-called Zangezur corridor is one of the existing plans for the geopolitical encirclement of Iran. Corridors are being created to connect China, India, Central Asian countries, etc., to North Africa and Europe, bypassing Iran. And Israel also plans to become a neighbor of Iran by penetrating southern Syria and then Iraqi Kurdistan. Israel plans to link this road to the Zangezur corridor and establish a presence near the Iranian border. Therefore, the completion of the fake Zangezur corridor encourages Israel to attack Iran again. Israel's extensive military presence in the Republic of Azerbaijan and intelligence cooperation between Baku and Israel will be easier if the so-called Zangezur corridor is created.
How does Iran view Russia's changing role in the South Caucasus, especially with Turkey and Western countries becoming more active in the region?
Russia's influence and role in South Caucasus have been greatly reduced, and the reason for this is Russia's involvement in the war with Ukraine and Russia's repeated mistakes which thought that it could contain the aggressive process of these countries in the Caucasus through interaction and cooperation with Turkey, Baku, Israel, United Kingdom, and the United States. Russia realized late that West's plan to encircle Russia in the Caucasus and Central Asia was serious, and that Turkey and Baku were playing in the puzzle designed by the United States and United Kingdom. And the lack of sufficient cooperation with Iran and the excessive arrogance of some Russians caused them to react late to the events in the region. The Russians allowed Aliyev to seize ourselves so that Baku would allow Russia to secretly export the sanctioned oil and gas, but Baku took advantage of this situation and made Russia dependent on itself and then imposed its demands on this country. Then the intervention of the mafia groups affiliated with Aliyev in Russian security and economic affairs became so great and extensive that Putin was forced to deal with them. Russia must intervene seriously in the Caucasus as soon as possible because the United States is trying to turn all three countries in the region into anti-Russian playgrounds through serious economic, political, and security investments.
To what extent do tension between Iran and the West limit Tehran's ability to take part in regional infrastructure and connectivity projects? In a recent interview with 168 Hours, Professor Jeffrey Sachs said that the Washington Declaration signed by Trump, Pashinyan, and Aliyev effectively places Armenia in Israel's conflict with Iran. Do you agree with that assessment?
The West is trying to prevent Iran from participating in infrastructure projects in the South Caucasus by exerting economic pressure, increasing inflation, and causing stagnation in Iran. However, Iranian companies have sufficient capacity now to work abroad. The main issue is financing these projects with the help of third parties. If this problem is solved, Iran will have no problem implementing various projects in the fields of construction, energy, transportation, etc. As you see, we are working in Armenia. We are building the North-South corridor near the Kajaran, Agarak, and Iranians are advancing in this field, and they have no problem because the financing is through European banks. So this is not a big deal for us if we can finance our project.
How would you describe the current state of Armenian-Iranian relations, particularly after the Washington events?
Generally relations between Iran and Armenia are in good shape. The two countries have extensive cooperations, and Iran does not believe that the Armenian government has any desire for the US to play a destructive role in this regard. However, the main question is whether the Armenian government has the ability to contain and control the US behavior and activities during its presence in Syunik or not. Experience has shown that the US is not faithful to its promises and does not miss any opportunity to hit Iran and confront Iran. This is the main concern that the Armenian government should pay attention to. Armenia has firmly promised that it will not allow cooperation with the US to harm the good relations between the two countries, and we hope that this will happen in practice. The presence of US companies in Sioni for construction should not lead to their security and military presence or any attempt to spy on Iran, and Iran's position on this matter is firm and so clear.
The Armenian government says it has brought peace, yet Azerbaijan's actions and statements seem to suggest otherwise. How would you describe the real situation between Armenia and Azerbaijan, especially given Baku's pressure on Yerevan to change its constitution and the ongoing detention of Armenian prisoners and Artsakh officials?
As you said, when Azerbaijan government continues to pressure Armenia to change its constitution and still holds Armenian war prisoners and Artsakh officials in Baku prisons, one cannot hope for a lasting peace treaty between the two countries. The problem is that Trump has also signed the treaty as a witness, not as a party to this peace treaty. The text is a draft and has not yet been definitely approved by two countries. There is some difficulties. Each part has its narration of this draft, and Aliyev claims about Sionic belonging to the Republic of Azerbaijan and the need to return Baku citizens to the so-called West Azerbaijan are also repeated regularly. Pashinyan hopes that appealing to Trump will prevent Aliyev from another invasion against Armenia and reduce the military budget. But the reality is that this perception is not true. Aliyev, due to his benefit from oil and gas reserves and strong military and security ties with Israel and Trump's Jewish allies and friends, has no commitment to peace. And if Aliyev gets the chance, will definitely attack and occupy at least southern Armenia again. Armenia's commitment to peace is valuable, but this country must also maintain its intelligence and military vigilance.
What role do you think Donald Trump plays in the current developments in the South Caucasus, and what might he be trying to achieve there?
I think that Trump does not care about maintaining peace and security in the South Caucasus. His goal is to gain more influence in this region, to jeopardize the security and interests of Iran, Russia, and China. And by controlling China's corridors to Europe by sea and land, Beijing faces difficult conditions, and Russia by increasing its influence in Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia, intends to create new conflict points for Russia so that it can defeat it in Ukraine. So US want to create new conflict zones with Russia in Caucasus region. By encircling Iran through the Caucasus, it will be easier for Israel and United States to attack Iran again, and turning Armenia into a playground for the United States and Israel is very dangerous for maintaining the stability, security, and territorial integrity of Armenia.
Finally, how can Iran strengthen its diplomatic position to ensure its interests are protected in the future regional connectivity plans?
I think Iran should increase its cultural, economic, political, and security and military cooperation with Armenia. We have to increase our cultural, economic, political, and security cooperation with Armenia, implementing economic projects, especially in Sionic province, such as establishing a refinery and petrochemical complexes, creating a joint free zone, creating a network of gas stations, establishing some universities, increasing the university cooperation between the two countries, establishing technical and vocational colleges in Armenia and cultural centers, increasing the presence of Iranian and Armenian students in two countries, and also tourists, establishing an exhibition and permanent trade center for selling Iranian goods in different cities of Armenia, and of course, Armenian goods in Iran, signing a strategic cooperation agreement between Iran and Armenia, and joint cooperation between Iran, Russia, and India, and expanding media interactions like what we are doing right now are very important.
Dr. Movahedian, thank you so much for this interview.
Okay, so many thanks. My pleasure.
Thank you so much for watching this interview. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel.